Hi traders, this is Kingdom Trade 001, Zulu Trade Signal Provider, and I'm doing this video just to let you know what I'm looking at in the coming week. When we look at the markets, it's been US dollar bullish. One of the significant developments and things to note is that there has been a global bond sell-off since Donald Trump's surprising election win in the US elections. And the reason the global bond market has sold off is because investors think that Trump's policy will increase inflation. He's talked about a big infrastructure plan for the United States. He's well known as a builder. So the idea that inflation is going to rise, it has got investors worried. So they've been selling off global bonds, knowing that central banks will have to raise interest rates to quell any rising inflation. So this has been part of the reason why the US dollar has been bought. Also, people are expecting the Fed to raise rates in December. It's almost perceived as a done deal. So in anticipation of those interest rates, which look almost certain to rise in December, and the potential of interest rates having to rise even further than anticipated, given the potential danger of inflation, this has really put a rocket under the dollar. So for the coming week, I'm looking to continue buying the dollar, and I've just had a look at some charts, and I'm going to tell you the charts that I favour for the coming week. Well, first off, in front of me, we have the Aussie US dollar weekly chart. Here you can see, those of you who know how I trade, I use a very simple system, which is a combination of moving averages, and this has given me a very clear sell signal. The last candle has broken through previous support. It's large, it's commanding, and to all intents and purposes, this looks like this sell-off is going to continue. The thing I really like about this chart, and I find this is a really good chart to buy the dollar, is there's all this space for price to move into. So I'm looking to sell the Australian US dollar, and there's a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. The thing to draw attention to is that on Tuesday at 3 o'clock GMT, and on Wednesday 1:30 through to 3:30, we have a series of key impact data: existing home sales, cured durable goods, new home sales, and crude oil inventories. All of these have potential to affect the US dollar, and to affect whether, interest rate rise looks a good idea, or it doesn't look so good anymore. And so traders are going to react very quickly to those, and so I'm going to be trying to take advantage of that. So if the data causes a rise in Aussie US dollar, then I'm going to be wanting to sell into that. So I might open up a sell position in anticipation of the dollar continuing to be bought up before the data comes out on the Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I'd probably take a little bit of profit, and then I wait to see what happens with the data. Maybe an opportunity to re-enter, maybe an opportunity to re-enter shorts on a rise back up to this level. It's a big candle, so I don't really want to be adding too much in at this stage, because my stop will be above the weekly high, and I'm looking to go down into this area here. So ideally I want sort of a tighter stop. I want price just to retrace a little bit. So a 4-hour chart short would be perfect. That's the sort of thing I'm going to be looking for next week. The other thing I'm looking for is a euro pound. Let's go to this on the daily chart. Now, the interesting thing about the euro pound, if you look on the weekly chart, you can see here that there is, a week before, there was a big break of these inside bars. So there was an inside bars, there was a break of these inside bars, and then this week, you see how price just closed below this support level here, and you can see it here on the daily chart. Now you see a combination of more inside bars, so I'm looking for this to break down to the downside. I'll be looking at opportunities to get short on the 4-hour, and it's interesting how things change. This was the area with Brexit, when the euro gained rapidly against the pound, because everyone thought, oh, this is Terrible news for Britain. They've left the euro. The euro really rocketed up against the pound. And this was before the US elections. I remember President Obama came over to, well, didn't say come over, he sent a message over to Britain and said, if Britain leaves Europe, this is the, you're going to be the back of the queue for trade deals. And how things change, because Brexit did go through, and then surprise election with Donald Trump being elected. And now all of a sudden, far from Britain being at the back of the queue with the US for trade deals, we've just jumped the line. And I personally, as a Brit, am very happy about that, because I've always thought that the British and American relationship was beyond that cynic's view that said America's only interested in Britain insofar as Britain has a foothold in Europe. And I was very disappointed with what Obama said. And I can see his position. He just wanted to try to make sure Britain stayed in Europe. But I was delighted with Trump's rhetoric after he won the US election, that he wanted to really secure good trade relationships between Britain and US. So that's one of the reasons why the pound has actually gained against the dollar. And here we see the pound gaining value against the euro. Now, I'm anticipating that to continue. I'm not married to that view, and I'm flexible to change depending on what the market tells me. But at the moment, the technical and the fundamental reasons are telling me this is good to short, especially with Europe now having its own problems. There's difficulties with other elections within Europe, and the Eurozone itself is very fragile, and it's by no means guaranteed to stay as a union forever and ever and ever. And of course, the markets know that, and Britain's place suddenly seems a lot more secure than it did even 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm looking to short the euro pound, and a 4-hour chart would be a great way to do it. Now, another chart that I'm really interested in is the pound New Zealand dollar. Now, what interests me here, technically, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 4 weeks rather, this is the weekly chart, are consumed by this one bullish reversal. Now, the chart is undoubtedly down, so I'm conscious that I'm fighting against this trend. But the key bit for me is the fact that this guy has engulfed these other candles. We see that there is a green crossing over red on the first candle, and the price is closed above the 5 EMA, and you can see other places where price closes above the 5 EMA, there is a reaction to the upside. There, and again I anticipate there being another reaction here, but we're slap up against this resistance level. So it's a tricky one. However, I think this is worth it, and especially when you look at the differences between the central banks in Britain and New Zealand. The New Zealand Central Bank, Governor Wheeler, has said, we don't think New Zealand needs to cut interest rates anymore. However, he still says it's a possibility. Whereas the pound, all of a sudden, is gained a lot of traction with the US election surprise result with Trump. So this has been, at least short term, possibly to medium term, bullish for the pound. So I'm looking at this chart to get long. And then you look at the technicals on the daily chart, you suddenly see, look at this, price has rushed up to that level, bang, 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 and then consolidated, getting smaller and smaller. When you see these cooling bars, you usually get a reaction one way or the other. Now I'm going to look for a 4-hour signal here. Now I'm looking for there to be a green over red with a bullish bar closing above the 5 EMA and ideally above that resistance level, and then I'm going to pop up and see what we can get. We can at least get a few points that way, possibly even more. So that's the other chart I'm looking at. Only thing I've got to watch out for on this is data coming out on Friday, which is GDP for Britain. Okay, what you probably find is that there will be a shot at breaching that level before Friday. So that's quite a nice relaxed trade for me. Dollar yen, another one I like. Just like it because there's not much not to like, really. I mean, look at that huge candle. We're buying the dollar. The market is saying we just want to buy the dollar. Now, of course, this can reverse on a dime, and we know that. And markets don't move in straight lines, and there's constantly reversals. However, you've just got to see the obvious right in front of you here. So I'm looking to buy the dollar yen. I'm looking for a green crossing over red. You can't really fault that chart. It's clearly a bullish chart from left to the right. It's up all the way. Why fight it? Why fight it? Easier to go with dollar yen. But of course, when I do enter, I will be protecting myself using a protective stop. If I'm not below the nearest swing point, so on this situation, it just doesn't make sense below a swing point because the risk is too bad. But I will look for a shorter entry on the 4-hour chart, and this may be an opportunity just to enter long here with stops underneath the nearest swing point, depending on how the market opens. I'll be looking at that, and of course I've got to look out for the data that there is for the Tuesday and the Wednesday, and I'll be responding as is necessary. Another trade that I like, the last one that I want to share with you, is the dollar CAD. Now, the thing I like about the dollar CAD is the longer term fundamentals for the US dollar against the Canadian dollar is bullish. Quite how trade deals are going to work out between Canada and America with Donald Trump, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of uncertainty about what Trump's going to do. And the Canadian currency and central bank's perspective is more bearish compared to the Fed. So I'm definitely looking and favouring longs on the dollar CAD. However, the only sort of thing that worries me a little bit about that is the oil price, which has recently been rising. And of course, a rising oil price supports the Canadian dollar. So with the possibility of there being a deal by OPEC and some of the oil-producing countries that they will, limit the supply of oil. It's been that oversupply of oil which has led to the rapid drop in oil prices. I'm delighted. Petrol's been never so cheap. However, that can affect the short term. It can affect very sharply the short-term reaction of dollar CAD. So I have to keep my eye on oil to make sure that I'm not thinking, yes, fundamentally it's dollar long, dollar CAD, but a quick fluctuation in the oil price or maybe a deal by OPEC can really put a spanner in that works. So it's something I've got to be cautious of. But conversely, if OPEC suddenly said, "Oh, there's no chance of a deal," or we're not going to stop supply, we're going to keep pumping oil out of the market, we can take this longer and longer. We want to shake out the competition, have low oil prices. Some of these big oil producing countries want to try that. Then obviously that is bullish dollar CAD. So I'll be wanting to jump in and take advantage of that. Again, I'll be looking at taking advantage of that on the daily chart. I'll be looking for a green crossing red, or on the 4-hour chart, I'll be looking for a green crossing red. That would be ideal at the open of the week. Have a look on Monday and see what's around. Okay, folks, that is what I'm looking at for the coming week. I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you some ideas. And could I just say to you that, could you comment on my video? Maybe there's something here you've said, oh, he's made some good points, but he's forgotten something. I'm a big believer in teamwork, and trading can be lonely. You have these ideas and thoughts, and you're interacting with people and reading, but sometimes you just you need a bit of teamwork. So if you've seen something that you could add to this, please leave a comment on my YouTube channel. Leave a comment underneath. If you like what I'm saying, give me a like. If you took any of these trades, why don't comment? I'd love to hear, if you did and how it went. And also, if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, just subscribe and you can get updated anytime I add a new video. And if you like my style of trading and you think, I like this, I'd like this guy to trade for me. Well, I am a Zulu Trade signal provider, Kingdom Trade 001. If you follow the link underneath this video and just click follow, then you can follow me here. And this is, my performance. I've got 5,000 points, and I've got $1,241 in profit, and the account was a $10,000 account, so that is just over 12% return since 23rd of August through to the middle of November. So that's not a bad percentage of return. So just click on the link, hit follow, and you'll get regular updates. Here's updates on various trades I've taken, updates on trades I took at the end of the US election, updates of technical and fundamental trades. Oh, and that reminds me, the Aussie New Zealand dollar, that is a good trade that I'm also looking at. I made a note here in my notes and I've forgotten to mention it here in my video, but I'll just point out to you, there's a good divergence in central bank policy. And I took a long when that divergence took place here, and I took profit at this sort of level, and as price started to drop down, I took profit on these positions, and now price has dropped right down. But I think if green crosses red again, that will be confirmation for me of the central bank divergence in policy, because the Australian dollar is gaining against the New Zealand dollar, as the Australian dollar looks more bullish. Now commodities, gold, has been falling in value, so that sort of more recent bullish run we saw in the Aussie dollar, which was supported a lot by that rush to gold in the uncertainty of the US elections and what was going on, has kind of faded off. So I'm a little bit more cautious seeing this reaction with the Australian dollar. But I do know that the New Zealand central bank, they've said they won't cut interest rates anymore, but they still... My Australian's economy has been rebounding a little bit, so there is a beginning of a divergence here. This could be a bottom. Now, I'm not married to that, and if I do enter this trade, it would be on the daily chart with my stop below a nearest swing point. But as many of you know, that this is my emergency stop. If this suddenly became a bullish bar, closed above the moving average, green crossing red, and I entered around here, my emergency stop would be here. I wouldn't wait until my emergency stop got hit. It would be my emergency stop, in case something terrible happened, in case there was some fundamental breakdown in the one of the economies. I'm covered. I've got my 1% risk, and that's it. I'm clear out the market. But otherwise, if I got a close down towards the swing low, and I mean a closing price on the daily chart, for instance, I would close out. So that's the way I trade. It's conservative, it's cautious, and it works. So that's it, folks. That's all for me. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to follow me as a Zulu trader, don't forget, follow the link at the bottom of the video and follow me there. It'd be great. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.